There you go. There you go. Big salute, big salute, big salute, big salute. Big salute to all my little ones, support room, support squad. You know, we got another one. Today, we gonna listen to Black Root Science. Yeah, yeah. I ain't even read volume 2 yet, so I'm gonna be listening just like y'all. You know, I'm gonna react, so I expect y'all to react too. Oh yeah, we got OG, the OGE. Yeah, he in the background, you know, whipping up something nice. You know what I'm saying? That's him on the jazzy beat. You feel, you feel. They don't feel. No, no, they don't feel. You feel. Do you feel me? Well, let's jump this thing off then.
Chapter 1: The Sacredness of Food. To our ancient ancestors,
Before I forget, just for YouTube and all the mother folk, this disclaimer alert for entertainment purposes only. This is for entertainment purposes only. Lego.
the entire creation is sacred. Everything they do is imbued with the sacredness, including the act of eating. They know that all things in nature have more than one purpose. So even though they realize that the primary purpose of eating is to nourish the body to keep it alive,
FOE.
they also recognize that there are other purposes besides nourishment. This does not mean that they downplay the value of nourishment, because it is just as important as the rest. Everyone knows that without nourishment, the body will not live long. Knowing all this, then you can understand why to them eating is like a ritual. It is never performed absent mindedly the way you see some people do today, eating while driving cars or rushing through their meal so they can go do other more important things, or just eating casually all day long, where some people do it so absent mindedly that you will hear the person say, "Where did my hot dog go?" Not even remembering that he already ate it. That type of absent minded consumption of food is an indication that we have forgotten that food has other purposes for us besides pleasure and nourishment. Of course, there is nothing wrong with getting pleasure out of eating. That is why God put different pleasant tastes in many varieties of foods so that we can derive pleasure from eating while we nourish our bodies. But to eat only for pleasure will always lead to unhealthy habits, such as overeating and eating foods that are bad for our bodies. This in turn will lead to an unhealthy body and eventually to premature death following painful illnesses.
Mm.
The ancients are able to avoid all of these pitfalls because they are taught the other purposes of food. So, eating is a sacred ritual that they performed with as much attention as any other important task in their lives. As I have mentioned before many times, the ancients eat only once every 3 days. This allows their metabolism to completely process the food with maximum efficiency and not allow for the accumulation of excess poisons in their cells.
I'm only at one a day.
Also, the 3 day schedule enables their bodies to convert all, or almost all, of the food into useful energy, both on the physical and spiritual level.
Damn.
Food does indeed have a spiritual component to it that nourishes our various spiritual bodies as well as our minds.
Yeah.
As you know, the society is organized into 72,000 towns of about 14,000 people each, all over the world. Now, the 14,000 or so people in the town divide themselves into neighborhood groups, for lack of a better word. These groups consist of about 90 to 100 people each,
Yeah.
and there are 144 of these groups in each town. The groups are made up of close neighbors of about 50 households who all share a single dining hall.
Damn.
So there are 144 of these dining halls in every town, except when there are children around. Then they build more dining halls to accommodate them.
Okay.
They eat together in these large dining halls every 3 days. Each group has its own 3 day timetable. So a third of the 48 groups, will eat, say, on the first day of the week, then another third on the second day, and the last third on the third day, and the first third again on the fourth day, and so on.
Damn.
They do not have situations like we have today, where you see individuals eating by themselves, or individual families eating by themselves in their house. To them, it is a delight and a great pleasure to meet with the other 100 people in their neighborhood every 3 days and enjoy a meal together. Basically, the men in the group take turns collecting food from the central town market, and of course, it is completely free. They give their food order to the market custodians in the morning and pick up the food later in the day. Every 3 days, men from the group will row their boats to the market and pick up their food order.
That's dope.
After the men collect and bring the food back, all food preparation and cooking is done by women. At other times, when there are children around, they build a separate dining hall next to the main hall where the children eat their meals every day up to 3 times a day. Every 3 days, when the adults have their meal, they will eat together with the children in the main dining hall. Obviously, not every member of the neighborhood group will be present at every meal. People visit friends or family, or go away on work or study for a few days, and sometimes for long periods of time.
Yeah.
Plus, they also entertain visitors from out of town now and then. So, even though their 3 day eating schedule is followed meticulously most of the time, it is not 100% rigid. Sometimes, for instance, when they are out in the field and someone sees delicious wild fruits, they will go ahead and eat some right there, especially if they want to find out if it is something they want to take back to their farms to cultivate. Also, when they visit friends and find them to be on a different 3 day timetable than they will adjust theirs to fit that of their hosts for as long as they stay there. Therefore, it happens many times that a person, having eaten the day before, will visit friends in another town the next day and find that they are having their meal later that day. Since it is never a polite thing to decline an invitation to dinner, he will join them, the result being that he ends up eating 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
This does not disrupt their health in the slightest. The fact that they adhere to a regular 3 day eating schedule the vast majority of the time makes their body so perfectly healthy that breaking the pattern occasionally has no adverse effects whatsoever. As I was saying earlier, there are other purposes to eating foods besides nourishment. In order to fulfill these other purposes, women are taught in their women's rituals about the different types of foods and what other purposes they serve. All people are taught in a general sense about this, but in the women's rituals, they extend the topic to cover every aspect of it, especially its spiritual components. All adult women are familiar with it and are food experts. They prepare the right types of food suitable for each and every individual in their group. The women have the ability to discern the spiritual needs of each and every member at any particular time. So when they prepare the food order, they take into account the physical as well as the spiritual condition of each member at the time and what it will be 3 or more days later. As a result, the food that is brought back from the market every 3 days is different. This is also dictated by the season of the year, as some foods are available only during particular seasons. Nevertheless, they are so good at this that they manage to fulfill the needs of each and every member without having to consult them. The way they do it is by studying the auras of these people, and they can tell what physical and spiritual condition they are in.
Damn.
They then are able to determine what particular foods they will need to keep their physical and spiritual bodies in perfect health. When a person has a certain amount and type of energy in his or her body, the aura will reflect it in a precise way. Not only that, but as the person thinks about his or her plans for the next week or so, the amount and type of energy that will be needed to fulfill those expectations is also precisely reflected in the aura. Being masters at reading the aura, the women can tell that a person's nutritional needs will be for the coming several days. They use this information to compose their food order, which they would then give to the men. They do the same with visitors. When visitors are expected, the women will read their aura
You
remotely
sign
before they
volume
arrive
two.
and include the results of that information in the food order. Such perfect coordination results in each and every dining experience being not
Yeah. Big salute to everybody tuning in, tapping in, checking in on your boy. We back with another one. Black Root Science Volume 2. I know y'all remember. Well, for my new people, I read Black Root Science Volume 1. So y'all go back in my videos and y'all check that out. But I ain't never read Volume 2. And for those y'all who was with me when I read Volume 1, then now y'all know Volume 2 got to be a banger. And it's already starting off good. So big salute to everybody that's tuning in, you know what I'm saying? So let's get back to it.
only a pleasure,
I'll get up
but
and
also
read.
very satisfying health wise for every person. The women take turns cooking every 3 days. It requires 4 men to pick up food from the market and 4 women to prepare and cook it for 100 or so people. Their food preparation system and cooking implements are far more sophisticated than ours today, such that it does not require many people. At the end of the meal, the women who cooked are always heaped with genuine praises about how good the food was. This happens every single time. At the end of each meal, as the people remained for a while longer in the dining hall talking, the 4 women who will be cooking next will take a minute or two to study the auras of everyone. The people are all in a happy mood at that moment. Having been well fed, they are relaxed and each one's aura is at its brightest, literally begging to be read. After reading their auras, they will retain this information and a day or two later use it to compile the next food order. This will be repeated like clockwork every 3 days. As you can imagine, this takes all the stress out of preparing, cooking, and eating food. People never have to worry about where their next meal is coming from or what types of foods they need to eat on any given day to maintain their health. This is all taken
Well, a lot of people better pay attention to this because looks like we finna be living like this in a few more days. Yeah, I'm down to one and a half meal a day. I'm down to about one and a half meal. Um, that's gonna be kind of hard to go 3 days without eating. But it don't sound impossible though. It don't sound impossible though. Just think about it. Just think about it. We just reacting. Let's get back to it.
care of with perfect coordination and execution. It leaves them with all the time they need to take care of other things in their perfect lives, to work, to study, to socialize, and ultimately to fulfill their destinies. Now I will talk a little bit about their farming techniques, as well as their food distribution methods. Only the 2 youngest generations engage in farming and food distribution activities. This includes all the people under 1,000 years of age. None of them have taken part in any of the great rituals. And the generation above them, those under 2,000 years of age, and they have completed the first great ritual, but not the second. Most of the work is done by the younger generation, the older one being there mostly to teach them how to farm and to coordinate the food distribution process.
Working.
When there are children around, they too are taken to the farms to teach them at the earliest possible age. They have large plots of land dedicated specifically to farming and growing fruit trees. As I mentioned before, each country is divided into 6 clans, and each clan into 100 districts, each district being made up of 10 towns, or approximately 144,000 people. Every district has a large plot for farms and orchards. That means there are farmlands in every suitable part of the country, enabling them to grow every part of fruit according to climate.
Dang.
They trade some of their produce among the 12 tribes and then distribute the traded food to the clan capitals.
Okay.
From there, they are sorted according to the needs of the districts and then distributed to the district capitals. Then, each district will combine all the traded foods they receive with the locally produced foods and distribute them to the town markets. Once there, men will come in their boats or other means of transportation and collect food every day, made ready for them according to their food orders. When there are no children or young adults under 28, each neighborhood group will send its 4 men to pick up food every
Big
3 days.
facts.
But when children are around, the food production is increased extensively and the men go to the market every day. That includes young boys old enough to row a boat, while young girls that are old enough take turns helping the women to prepare the food. The people in each neighborhood group include members of all 7 generations. Remember that at all times, under normal circumstances, there are always 7 generations of people on Earth, the youngest being under 1,000 years of age, then those 1,000 to 2,000 years, and so on up to the oldest generation, 6,000 years and older. All of them are there in every town.
Mm. That can you imagine being 1,000 years old and you still young, whipping, snapping? Can you imagine that? Dang.
Once a couple builds their own house in a certain town, they live there for the rest of their lives. They never move to another house or another town and make a new home. Only newly married couples move, usually the woman moving to the town of her husband in the present patriarchal society. After settling down, they will live in that same house for the rest of their lives. Every couple builds their own house with the help of their neighbors. When a family patriarch and matriarch
And your body
ascends,
will feel
the home plot of land they occupied will now be occupied by the married couple next in line for a new home. Usually, the patriarch and matriarch will not ascend until their youngest descendants.
yeah, if you eat vegetables and fruit, your body will feel different. Cause we did a fruit fast when I was in Bikini. We did like 3 4 days. Oh man, I'm talking about yeah, yeah. That was what it was, you know. But then after you break the fast, you be walking past the little people grilling the meat, and that meat be smelling good in the motherfucker, and then you fuck around and you break. I was like, damn, what they cooking over there? What they got on the grill? What they got on that grill, bitch? Give me some. 20, 20 bob, 20 shillings. That's it. Yeah, give me. Oh, and I get the little stuff on the side. Yeah, give me that. Let me get that. Let me get that. Man,
Are over 77
boy, we greedy. We greedy. We damn greedy, y'all. We greedy.
years old.
That.
Only then does a plot of land become available. In the meantime, the youngest married couple builds a small house on the land occupied by the man's
Yeah.
parents. Each family lives on a large plot of land, close to 4 acres for small families with 2 children or less, and larger for big families with more than 2 children, so there is plenty of room to build more houses. Since they get married at the age of about 14 to 18 years old, they will continue to live in their own house on the same land with their parents until they are over 77 years old. Then a plot of land becomes available when a senior couple ascends. They do not have children until they are over 1,000 years old and have completed the first great ritual.
Damn.
The young couple, when they eventually get their own plot, will then remove all the structures that were built on that plot and renew the land using certain methods they were taught. They then
Oh, so I guess what she's saying, this is how the ancients lived. Because, our lifespan got shortened, but the ancients, like, around when they first started keeping record, they be like, damn, how the king ruled for 56,000 years and 6,000 years and 14? Because they lived that long. They used to live that long back then. Oh, was that before the flood? Was that before the flood? Yeah, that was before the flood. Yeah. Yeah. So y'all got remember, y'all got to keep that in mind too. The folks used to live a lot longer, and they grew a lot bigger.
Then build their main house and surrounding structures on that land and live there for 7,000 years or longer until they too ascend. The only time people move out of their towns is at the end of the
Oh,
700,000 year elder
receive.
cycle, when the entire earth is rearranged. As I said before, this happened about 150,000 years ago. And so you will find every generation represented in every neighborhood group, and they all contribute to the dining work. The women cooking and the men picking up the food from the market and cleaning after dinner. But all the older men, those above 3,000 years of age, always joke that they don't have time to be rowing around in boats to pick up food. They say they did enough of that when they were young. What they do is, when their turn comes, they go to the market remotely with their minds, dematerialize the food in the containers, and rematerialize it at its destination.
Dang.
And they always play games with the cooking women.
And it's not
When the
like it's
women come
not
in
like
to
we
cook
do it.
and
No.
find the storage room containers empty, they know right away it's the old timers.
And that sounds like something that's possible to do. We just because you already sometimes you feel like you got that power anyway. You just like, damn, how can I control it? How can I just, you know what I'm saying? For real, y'all know y'all be in the room by yourself, you be like, man, I wonder if I could move that thing off that table. You be trying to focus your cheap power and shit. Y'all know what I'm talking about, man. Go ahead, man. Y'all crazy, man. Y'all crazy. I ain't messing with y'all.
Playing tricks again. So they wait for a few seconds, and then the bins instantly fill with food right before them. All the men, when their turn comes, get the food order from the women and relay it telepathically
Right?
to the market custodians the morning of pickup day. There are always between 9 and 12 people working at the market when it is open. They all receive the food orders telepathically. When they come to work in the morning, the first thing they do is come together and make a combined telepathic announcement to the whole town that they are ready to receive food orders. Within about a minute or two, they receive 48 food orders for that day from 48 different groups. As I said, there are 144 groups, and every day a third of them, 48 groups, will eat dinner. The food orders all come in nearly at once. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes. The people do not use a writing system, but the containers of each neighborhood group are permanently marked with symbols and colors.
Damn.
They mentally record all the orders, about 4 or 5 orders per custodian, and then proceed to fill the empty containers that are sitting on the dock that were exchanged for full ones 3 days earlier when the men came to pick up the food. Their system of fulfilling the food orders is simply amazing. All the foodstuffs have been previously sorted and stacked on the market shelves. Different types of food in appropriately sized, uniform containers. The containers are made of a certain type of manufactured crystal with a sealing lid. The food is kept at a constant temperature in the storage rooms, whose walls are built with thick stone. The most perishable foods, such as fruits and vegetables, will stay fresh in these crystal containers for up to 7 years. But they don't keep food that long. Food that is rotated from the oldest stock and taken to the dining halls will usually have been sitting in storage in the town market for about 7 to 10 days. Before then, it will have been in storage at the district capital for another 7 to 10 days. And before then, if it is traded food, will have been in the clan capital storage rooms for another 7 to 10 days. And before then, at the farm storage area for several more days. So it is in storage and distribution for a total of 20 to 40 days, depending on whether it is traded or local food. I'm referring specifically to perishable foods. They are stored in these crystal containers immediately after harvest, and 40 days later, they taste as fresh as food that was harvested that day.
Damn.
Grains, herbs, and other foods that are not easily perishable are in the storage and distribution cycle longer. being stored in much larger containers. They are transferred to smaller metal containers made of silver or gold when they are ready to be picked up. When they are ready to fill the food orders, the market custodians sit in a round room in the middle of the marketplace. The room is surrounded by 12 storage rooms with variously sorted foods of all kinds. The custodians then bring the food order lists up in their minds, and as soon as they do this, the right number and kind of containers of food dematerializes out of the storage rooms and into the containers at the dock.
Damn.
They are able to do it instantly without having to locate the different foods because they already know where every single container is located and the type and amount of food in it. They effortlessly memorized it all when they were unloading the ship and stocking the market shelves and the storage rooms at the time the food was delivered from the district capital. What is even more amazing about the process is that each person fills his or her orders, 4 or 5 of them, simultaneously. The entire process takes them less than a minute to complete. They are usually at the market for about 10 to 20 minutes only, and most of that time is spent just sitting talking while they wait for all the custodians to arrive
Eh,
because they all work as one.
okay. When you
The actual work, taking orders and filling them, all takes about 6 or 7 minutes. Then they are done for the day and leave. The only time they are there longer is when new shipments come in every 10 days or so. Then they work at the market for about an hour, restocking the shelves. When the men come in to pick up their food, there is usually no one inside the market. They find their containers filled with food, waiting for them on the dock. They exchange their clean, empty containers for full ones, then linger around the dock for a while talking to others, and then head back. They get to talk to the market workers only once every 10 days when they find them unloading the ship. Now, the market workers are not the same people at all times. Every adult in the town does this job, as well as many others. They take turns working in the market just like they do the other dining work. Their farming methods are simple, labor intensive methods. They do use animals for some of the farm work, such as plowing the land. They have very intricate and highly efficient irrigation systems that rely on the fountains, rivers, and streams that abundantly crisscross all of their countries. Farming is perhaps the hardest work they do. As I said, they start as children and do it intensively for about 1,000 years.
damn.
After that, they no longer engage in the hard work, but go mainly to teach the new generation that came after them, who will now perform all the hard work.
Damn.
When it comes time to harvest,
Pass it on.
they make use of what they call their harvesting crystals. These are specially made crystals that they use to transmit images that help them to visualize the separation of the food from the rest of the plant or the fruits from the trees.
Also, who's
They use this
that?
visualization process to dematerialize the harvest instantly, and I will try to describe their harvesting technology.
Busting those sweats.
The process is similar to that used in the markets in that it is also a dematerialization process. The difference is that the crops on a farm field or the fruits on a tree are not neatly placed like stock on shelves where they can all be visualized easily and transferred by this process. Every plant and tree is different,
Mm,
and the food is located randomly all around the tree by nature. So it would be especially complicated to try and visualize every single fruit on the tree and every single grain on the stalk to dematerialize it and separate it from the rest of the plant.
no,
There are older people that can actually do this, but according to custom, they do not use their powers for such work.
no.
The real reason they do not is because there are certain side benefits that are very important for the young people that can only be learned efficiently when they use certain types of technologies, and their crystal technology falls in that class. Every person has to master it before they can advance and gain higher powers that use only the mind. The same holds true for the type of hard work they have to perform on their farms in preparation for the harvesting season, as well as the use of animals. They could easily make machinery that can do all of their farm work, But then they would lose other benefits, mostly spiritual ones, that they gain by working on nature directly with their own hands when they are young. To use the harvesting crystals, they place them in the field and make a recorded image of all the plants to be harvested. The crystals record an image of each and every plant in crystal clear, lifelike detail. The way the crystals record images is not by using light the way modern cameras do. They record the actual electromagnetic properties of an object, which means they record equally well in the light, in the dark, or on objects that are hidden behind others. The farthest object will be as clear as the nearest. As I have said before, everything in existence has a unique frequency of vibrations. The crystals record all these unique frequencies that are within their focus. Their range of focus can extend for many miles depending on the size and type of crystal. They are not very large, the largest being only about the size of an average sized book, such as a Bible, and the smallest being about the size of a matchbox. For a large field, they will place one book sized crystal on its stand in the middle of the field. The crystal will cover the entire field and reproduce a recorded image of each and every plant on the farm. The images are transmitted instantly to the central room of the farm storage building. Scientists in that room will study all the images for a few minutes, taking samples. The transmitted recording includes all the sensory properties of the plant and crop, meaning the texture, the smell and taste, etc. They wear a certain type of crystal on a bracelet on their forearm that enables them to sample the texture, taste, smell, etc. of the entire field of crops in just a few seconds. The best crops will stand out among the rest by presenting a more perfect symphony of vibration, sort of like listening to many songs at the same time and then hearing the ones that have a superior quality stand out among the rest. These crops are automatically singled out on the recording directly by the minds of the scientists, so as to distinguish them from the rest. They will be saved and used for seeds in the next season. When that stage is completed, and it only takes a couple of minutes, they then go to the next stage, which is to separate the grains from the rest of the plant. This separation occurs on the imagery only. It is not yet an actual separation out on the farm. The crystal is programmed in such a way that it can tell the difference between a grain and the rest of the plant because they have clear, distinct frequencies of vibration. Upon receiving a mental command, it will produce a new set of images that shows only the grains, with the rest of the plant not showing. At this point, the scientists are ready to go to the final step, which is to dematerialize the grain and move them into their containers in the storage rooms. They start first by dematerializing the seed crops that they singled out earlier and store them first, then the others that are to be used for food and store those in their appropriate places. Harvesting vegetables is similar. They make an image distinction between the edible part of the plant and the rest of the plant by programming the frequencies into the crystal. The crystal then presents them with the images made up of only the edible part, not showing the rest of the plant. Then they dematerialize only what shows on the images in the room, thus separating the edible part of the plant from the rest. In a similar way, they harvest the fruits from their orchards. First, they separate the seeds from the best tasting fruits to use them in the next planting. Then, the crystal, when recording an image, does not capture only the exterior part of the object like a modern camera. It captures the entire vibrational symphony that make up the fruit. So it can be programmed to separate the skin and meat of the fruit from the seed and present an image of the seed only. When the scientists focus their attention on these images of the seeds and start the dematerialization process in their minds, the actual seeds that are out on the orchard will be clearly separated from the rest of the fruit. The difference between the best crops and the rest is very marginal. What the people eat were last season's best crops, and the best seeds that are saved this season will be regular crops in coming seasons. But over time, this selection makes each plant more perfect. Even though the difference is barely noticeable over the short run, in the long run, the farm plants evolve slowly but steadily, partly because of human civilization, until the end when they will reach the pinnacle of their evolution and become absolutely perfect. They transport their produce on large cargo ships and other means of transportation. I will talk only about their ships. These large ships are self operated with no one aboard. They are guided along the canals and rivers by a programmed crystal with a set path. Their man made canals and waterways are extremely well built with clean, flowing, drinkable water. They are lined along the sides and bottom with marble and other hard stones. They are fed with water from the natural fountains, rivers, and other streams. In some towns, they are connected directly to large lakes that are in elevated areas. At the entrance to the main canal that feeds all the other canals at the edge of the town, they place a type of magnetic gate. This is a specially designed magnetic field suspended between two crystals. They fine tune the way this field operates by programming the crystals. Generally, they are programmed to let only water go through the magnetic gate, which purifies it as it goes through. The programming is very complex. It will allow only specific minerals through that are flowing with the water, while diverting others away from the main canal back to the stream via a separate, smaller canal. The gate will also prevent any kind of debris, such as leaves and twigs and mud, from entering. It will also let certain types of small fish and other water life through, but not others. The magnetic field extends from the gate along the length of the canals, providing a type of cover over the entire canal system. This prevents all other debris from falling into the canal, such as falling leaves, dust, insects, etc. Because of this, the canals never need cleaning. They maintain themselves in pristine condition for thousands of years. The lining stones also never need replacing for the entire life of the canal system. The only type of maintenance performed on the system is to ensure that they always have an adequate supply of water to the inlet. Sometimes the streams can get diverted by natural circumstances, in which case they would dig and reroute it accordingly. The people are very fond of water. You will see them swimming in the canals every day. In all the towns that have canals, there are some that do not, that use other means of transportation. The main canals are about 50 feet wide, with narrower canals connecting to them. The main canals are meant for the large cargo ships. The connecting narrower canals are used by smaller boats, such as the ones they use to go to the market. Connected to the sides of some of the canals are large swimming pools, about 200 feet by 200 feet, where people swim. Each town has about 40 of these large pools. Even the towns that do not have a canal system have their swimming pools. The children will not only swim in the swimming pools, but they will go into the traffic lanes of the canals and swim there also, especially the main ship canals. When they see a large cargo ship coming, some children will just stay in its path to see what will happen. This is a game they like to play. They know that the cargo ships are unmanned, and they do this just to see what the ship will do. All ships and boats, even the smaller ones, are equipped with a childproof system that will stop the ship if there is any object in its path. Even though the children are told this, they still play this game. When they see that the ship indeed comes to a stop and will not move until they get out of the way, then they move and thereafter lose interest in the game. It seems that all children do it. The adults just ignore them, knowing that they will only do it once or twice and then lose interest, because they too did it when they were children. One thing they are unable to do, though, is to approach within 10 feet of the ship. The ships are covered by a field that prevents anyone from advancing beyond its 10-foot perimeter. Only mature people, those who have gone through puberty, are able to disengage the field and board the ship by using a mental command, and they never give this command to children. When the children become very curious and want to board the ship, a couple of adults, or older teenagers will take them to the marketplace where the ship is headed. After it docks, they will take them aboard so they can look at it. This happens a lot when there are children around. But because, for the greater majority of the time, there are no children on Earth, the unmanned ships are free to go on their way without any trouble. There are bridges located at regular intervals for crossing the canals. These are not elevated bridges. They are mechanical bridges that advance and retract from both sides of the canal. They are made from giant slabs of very light but hard stones. Each bridge consists of two long slabs, one on either side of the canal, that are about 14 feet wide and 50 feet long. Each stone is laid lengthwise in a trench near the water's edge. The trench is about 10 feet deep and 50 feet long to take the whole length of the slab. The slabs then slide into the water towards each other until they touch to form a bridge. The top of the stone is only about a foot above the water level, and the water level itself is about 2 feet above 2 feet below ground level. When they are fully in and touching, the water will continue to flow under the stones. Only a third of the length of the stone is in the water. The remaining two-thirds is still supported in the trench by its own weight to prevent the stone from tipping over. Once they touch, they are magnetically locked to each other so that you can put even a large weight on them. But generally, they do not take any large weights. They are used just for walking to cross the canals. I want to describe these bridges in detail because there is something about them that has to do with the children that is very fascinating. When the bridge is fully retracted, the stone lies buried in its trench, and two-thirds of its length is totally underground, covered with vegetation, usually short grass. This vegetation is actually planted in soil right on top of the stone. The front one-third of its length is left bare and visible. That is the part of it that enters the water. When it slides and advances into the water, it takes the covering vegetation with it and leaves the trench gaping wide open behind. When a person wants to cross the bridge, he approaches any part of the stone. As soon as he steps on top of it and remains still for about 2 or 3 seconds, or walks along its length toward the water for about 2 or 3 seconds, then the stone starts gently sliding forward. The other stone across the water also starts sliding until they both meet in the middle of the canal. After the person crosses and steps off the stone, they both begin to retract back into their trenches. As I said, each stone leaves about a 17-foot length of the trench gaping wide open until it slides when it slides to form the bridge. But it is not possible to enter this trench. It is covered with a magnetic field that is similar to that which covers the perimeter of the ship. But you can clearly see the sides and bottom of this wide, 10-foot deep hole. Now, what the children do is as soon as this hole is exposed, they jump on top of it, trying to get into the hole. They will jump up and down for a while, then come running to join the others, crossing the bridge, and run past them to the other side and jump up and down on that trench as well. They do this almost every time they cross the bridge. The slabs used to cross the main canals are much
My
bigger.
mama had called.
They are about 30 feet wide and over 75 feet long. They are cut differently than the small bridges. The back two-thirds of their length, that is covered with vegetation, is about 30 feet deep, while the front part that advances into the water is about 15 feet deep. The canals are dug extra deep at the bridge crossing to accommodate the stones. The front part of these larger ones also has round holes in them to allow water to flow through when the bridge is connected. A ship that approaches a bridge on the main canal prevents the stones from closing when it is at a distance of about 300 feet. After the ship is about 20 feet past the bridge, then the bridge can be operated again.
And they on some future.
The trenches of these stones are massive. When they form a bridge, they leave an open trench behind that is 30 feet wide, 50 feet long, and 30 feet deep. The children love to play on these trenches more than the smaller ones.
Dang.
They will even go to the main canal to operate the bridge, not with the intent to cross. but just so that they can run back and forth between the two trenches, jumping up and down on top of the holes, trying to fall inside. When they run back and forth like that, sometimes they slip on the wet stones and fall into the water. But all of them can swim. They never get hurt, though, even if they hit the edge of the bridge, which does not have any side railings. The reason they never get hurt is because they have a certain natural protection mechanism around their bodies that prevents any object from hurting them when it falls on them, or when they fall onto a hard surface,
But
no matter
I'm
how far they fall.
to it.
I will describe this about their bodies at another time. There's a very intelligent reason why they play on the trenches like that. The children, like all other people, are extremely intelligent.
Ain't nothing like good book.
There is no way to describe their intelligence by comparing it to modern people. Their intelligence is through the roof the moment they open their eyes and make first contact with their mother. The reason they stop the cargo ship is because they were told the ship will stop by itself when someone is in its way. So the first thing they want to do is confirm this. Not because they don't believe their parents or other adults when they tell them things, they do, but they still want to see it for themselves.
Yeah, that's how kids do.
They are all raised this way, to investigate things for themselves, and have an insatiable appetite for knowledge that lasts their whole lifetime, and is satisfied only when they become full God and know all things.
Yeah.
Once they have seen the ship 2 or 3 times, stop, they naturally lose interest in this game and go into other things. In their worlds, there is no there is so much for them to discover and investigate. They will not waste time repeating something from which they have already gained all the knowledge they can. But when it comes to playing on the trenches, this they can never get enough of. All children, even modern children, are fascinated by mysterious holes and hidden rooms and tunnels and things like that. They cannot resist the urge to get inside anything that seems to be hidden. So they jump up and down on the trenches, hoping that someday they will be able to fall in and get to the bottom of the hole. Adults tell them all the time that one day, if they keep playing like that, they will fall into the hole. And in a way, that sort of encourages them to keep doing it. The adults, of course, are again telling them the truth, but they do not explain under which circumstances they will fall in there. But every single one of them eventually falls in. And when they do not tell the other children that it happens. When they eventually fall in, it always takes them by surprise. This happens to every child right around the time they reach puberty. It happens spontaneously. You will see an older child of about 11, 12, or 13 still walk to the trenches once in a while and peer curiously down the hole. At that age, they no longer jump up and down on the top of the hole, but they will still accompany their younger siblings or friends to the trenches now and then to watch them play. Then one of these older children will approach the hole and stand on top of it, still wondering how he can enter it. If it is his or her time, it will happen quickly, taking him completely by surprise. The child will find him or herself on the floor of the trench, looking up at the other children, who are still running back and forth across the bridge, screaming at the top of their voices, and jumping up and down on the hole, completely ignoring him. Still surprised, and now getting confused, he will continue to look up until he sees an older child standing up there, peering down at him. As he looks closer, he realizes that he is actually looking at his own body.
Damn.
At that point, something miraculous happens. He finds himself back in his body, perfectly conscious and still peering into the hole, and at the same time is still inside the hole, looking up at himself.
Damn.
Then he realizes that part of his mind seems to have disassociated and entered the hole, while the rest of his mind is still with him as he is in his body. As soon as he realizes this, he is overcome by an ecstatic feeling, and for the first time, he understands what the adults meant when they kept saying that one day he will fall into the trench.
Yeah.
Right after that, the experience ends. He finds himself fully in his body. He quietly leaves the screaming children, who he can tell have no idea what just happened to him. He goes back home and tells his parents, uncle, older sister, or whichever adult he finds in his house or the house next door. The adult, upon hearing this, says absolutely nothing for a moment or two. Then, as if he did not hear even what the child just said, he will say something like, "Why don't you take those tools over there and go to your cousin's house and help him fix this boat?" Or, "Why don't you go to the garden and pick some flowers for your mother?" Still confused, he or she will obey and go do what the adult says. From then on, he will not say anything to anyone else about it. Some days or even weeks will pass as if nothing happens. Then one day, one of his mentors will approach him or her and say, "You are now ready to prepare for your ritual of puberty." At that point, everything falls into place in his mind. He does not have any more questions or confusions about what happens. He realizes, without having been told by anyone, just from observing the way the adults are now looking at him, that this is something that happens to everyone who is approaching puberty.
Yeah.
After the day the mentor tells him that, he finds out that he can disassociate at will and enter the hole whenever he wants. He also finds out that he can enter his house, in any house, while still standing outside. As he experiments with his new ability,
Mm.
he discovers its limits for someone his age. He finds out that he can remotely see only into places that are no more than about 700 feet from him. He cannot go further than that, no matter how hard he tries.
Damn.
He asks his mentor about it and is told that the ability is just starting to be born in him. It will increase after his first important ritual, the ritual of puberty. It will keep increasing until it reaches a peak where he can see to the other side of the earth after he completes his education at 77 years of age.
Damn.
That explains the fascination that all children have with the trenches. Now, to continue about the other purposes of eating, all the people over 77 years of age, meaning those that have completed the ritual for the creation of life, have a supernaturally intense awareness of everything they put in their bodies, especially the food and liquids they consume.
Mm.
They have an informal ritual that every day you will see being performed by someone somewhere. A person will go to a stream or fountain or any natural source of pure water and take some water into his hands and drink. Before drinking, he will say a certain familiar chant that everyone knows. This chant, generally speaking, can be explained like this. When a person wants someone, say an aunt or uncle, to explain something important to him, then he takes the water and before drinking it, communicates telepathically with the aunt to tell her that he is about to put in his body what was once in her body. To explain what they mean by that statement, it is clear that when people breathe out, some moisture comes out. Liquids also leave the body through sweating, but they sweat very little, even when doing heavy physical work.
Damn.
They have a part of their bodies, a natural mechanism for removing sweat and everything that is unwanted from their skin without taking a bath. This keeps their bodies clean at all times.
Okay.
So when they breathe out and exhale some water vapor, or when sweat is evaporated from their skin, it naturally becomes part of the moisture in the air. It will either fall down as dew or rise up to join the clouds and fall down as rain somewhere. Then it may flow in a river or water a plant somewhere or do one of many other things that are part of the Earth's water cycle. But someday, it may be a year later or many decades later, that drop of moisture that came out of an aunt's body will float down a river or stream and be captured by the person we mentioned above.
Damn.
Unbelievable as it may sound, all the people who are over 77 years of age have the ability to pinpoint a drop of water in a stream and identify it as part of the breath of someone they know. When such a thing happens, the person who is looking to perform this ritual is alerted in his mind automatically. He is then able to concentrate and spiritually see it as it comes down the stream close to his location. He will then go to the stream and wait for it, then cup it in his hands as it flows by. Then he will perform the ritual as if I have described above. After saying the chant and after drinking the water, he will inform his aunt that he has done so and is now ready to receive instruction from her about the matter on which he had previously consulted her and requested her to enlighten him.
Mm.
All that is the gist of the chant. The aunt then will meet him as soon as convenient and proceed to teach him, knowing that he is now ready to understand what she has to offer, because they are united by that particle of liquid that was once in her and is now in him,
Yeah,
after being purified by nature.
that's deep.
This also applies to the food they eat. Chapter 1: The Sacredness of Food. To our ancient ancestors, the entire creation is sacred.
Yeah, my bad, y'all.
House or the house next door. The adult, upon hearing this, says absolutely nothing. They sweat very little, even when doing heavy physical. This also applies to the food they eat. They are able to recognize if there is even a molecule they eat, but it happens often enough that it brings joy to the whole group. This keen awareness they have about the food they eat is part of the reason why their bodies are permanently healthy. They never experience any kind of food associated
Yeah, my bad,
discomforts,
y'all.
such as indigestion, heartburn, or any of the discomforts we experience today because of our lack of awareness.
Again, though, I know y'all like, damn, everybody tune in and out, in and out. But what we're gonna do next though, we're gonna check on Trapflix.com. Trapflix.com. See what's going on in Trapflix. Oh, there you go. Glocks is home. Glocks is home. There you go. Hold on, I almost got $2 in my account. What could he got going on? Oh yeah. Trapflix.com. Yeah, I got my videos up there. Yeah. Need to put some more up there. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's see what we got here. They get to do the social right yet. Yeah. 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 Traffic's on. Traffic's on. Uh-oh. What's up, OG? Yeah, this dope right here. Traffic social. Let me see what social hitting on. Yeah, Trapflix.com, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all go register, play with it. Go back to the store. Let's see, it look dope. Shop, download. It on there. Yeah. So y'all make sure y'all go register. Trapflix.com. Y'all see what it is. Y'all see what it is. Let's go back. Hmm? No, you can talk. You want to say something? You want to talk to him? Talk to the people right here. They go to OGE, y'all. The OGE. But yeah, y'all make sure y'all go register with Trapflix.com. I got dedicated another lot to Trapflix.com. Yeah, Trapflix.com. And y'all make sure y'all come follow your boy. Cuddy Cud. Cuddy. My Cuddy. Yeah. Fuck with your boy. Make sure you come fuck with your boy. Better YouTube, see what's going on. Uh-oh. What Putin done did. Entertainment purpose only. Disclaimer, disclaimer.
I only like to do it for the winners. Always moving forward, all I'm going for is pennies. I don't like to talk, I'm just really out here living.
Which expels dissenters, which shuts down the press, takes control of media. Like, what? These are all violations of what it takes to become an EU member. Now you're just going to let them in? Okay. Corruption. It's the name of the game. Yeah. Also, I love this. Just as a just watching the propaganda unfold, I love how they have full video camera crews with really beautiful steady cams, always ready to welcome these world leaders to Kyiv. Like, here we go. Watch this nice, like, tracking shot. Like, here moving along. Is that a tracking shot or is that a? I don't know. It's like a nice steady cam shot.
That's either a tracking shot or a really good cameraman. And look at that. They've got different angles. They're probably like, okay, reset. Now go back and walk again.
Yeah, and they've got music.
That is definitely a production.
Look at all these. They release all of it. They release like these videos with music and all of this production. Like, you're in a war zone, but hey, we got crews. I got my best sweatshirt on today.
Everybody's so happy. Look how happy everybody is. My God. They're so happy.
On up, shake hands. Let's get inside. Let's get some nice panning shots showing us meeting inside here. Let's get down to business. Let's get some work done here. What are you going to do for us? How much more money can you send to us?
And they go there getting it took.
Can I kiss your boots anymore?
It's crazy.
That's unbelievable. So that's the EU side of things. Then today we learned that the Biden administration is also about to funnel $2 billion. A new $2 billion plus Ukraine aid package
$2 billion?
with longer range weapons. So the United States is ready more than $2 billion worth of military aid for Ukraine that is expected to include longer range rockets for the first time, as well as other munitions and weapons. 2 U.S. officials briefed on the matter told Reuters on Tuesday. So Michael Tracy points out, of course, these longer range weapons, we've slow walked this thing, right? We have this is like mission creep. So here is Michael Tracy. Last summer, Ukraine's defense chief specifically pleaded for long-range rocket systems to strike targets within 150 kilometers. The pleas were rebuffed due to escalation fears. Now the U.S. is sending rocket systems with a range of 150 kilometers. These decisions all eventually go in one direction.
Hell.
Yeah, because now we're sending jets as well. So, remember, that's World War III, according to Biden. Can't send tanks. Can't send jets. We can't put U.S. personnel. Now we literally have Americans. I saw the photos today of Americans coming home in coffins draped in American flags.
Uh-oh.
Did you sign up for this?
Uh-oh.
So American personnel,
mercenaries. Were they in a field in Poland or something? Like, how did that happen?
Right. No, I think they were actually in Ukraine, although they told us they're not there. American personnel coming home in body bags. Coming home in American flag draped coffins.
Flag draped coffins.
Tanks, long-range weapons, jets, whatever else. All of this, we were told, would be World War III. So here's moron-in-chief, NATO leader Jens Stoltenberg. He's shocked to find out that Russia and China are growing stronger. How did that happen, I wonder? Here, he worries about this. Watch.
The fact that Russia and China are coming closer.
Тот факт, что Россия и Китай сближаются, а также значительные инвестиции Китая и новые передовые военные возможности лишь подчеркивают, что Китай представляет угрозу.
So he can't believe it that they're growing closer together. Like, that's a concern. Really? That must come as a shock to you when you literally put a ninth and then now 10th sanctions package and make it the most sanctioned country in world history. Is that shocking to you?
Yeah.
That they would go and find a better friend?
Crazy.
If you're at recess and you're growing up in your, in junior high school or whatever, or your elementary school, and you're this friend that you think is good, like a good friend, but he's constantly talking behind your back. He's constantly bullying you. He's constantly taking away the ball. He's constantly making you feel bad. He's undermining you at every turn. Are you going to hang out with that person, or are you going to go find other friends? You're going to go find other friends who are going to have your back And that's what Russia has done with China and made it stronger. So you're shocked by this? Morons. So better friends is what they found. To the military side of things now, and this is where Ukraine is now convinced that Russia has started to mobilize. This is the New York Times. And Ukraine fears new offensive is underway as Russia masses troops. Russia is massing hundreds of thousands of troops and stepping up its bombardment, perhaps signaling the biggest assault since the start of the war. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky says, quote, I think it's started, but I have time to hang out with Ursula von der Leyen and smile and have camera crews. So literally one of the biggest assaults in years, in one of the biggest ground war assaults in, I don't know, ever, is about to unfold. And you can hang out with Ursula von der Leyen and do photo shoots. So this is what's happening. And Ukrainian propagandists are, of course, all over this story. But it's weird to see like the mainstream media in lockstep with this, because they're all in Kyiv or they're not on the front lines. They're not actually there covering this story in Donbass, of course. And so what Vladimir Putin has been saying over the past few days is, we are moving now our line back. Where you guys continue to carry out this genocide against the people of the Donbass, we are now going to stretch that front. So we're going to push you back. So no more. Like, you want to continue to try to hit these areas, our new mission now is to push you all the way back. So any things that you lob our way are well without range. You'd be hitting your own people, which, that's the thing. The Ukrainians have been saying that these are our own people anyway, but then they're okay to just shell them for the past 8 years. So it makes no sense. But, and they want that territory back so they can be brutal leaders again of those people that do not want to have anything to do with them. So that's the new red line. We're pushing you way back so you can't attack what is now Russian territory, sovereign Russian territory in the Donbass. And Ukrainian propagandists are all over the story. It's amazing to watch. Like, they're acting in coordination with the mainstream media. Here's one of my favorite Ukrainian takes today by this person, Ariana Zhik. Credible Ukrainian military experts, which is laughable in and of itself, credible Ukrainian military experts warn that the anticipated imminent Russian offensive will include attacks on nuclear power plants, either to occupy or disconnect them from Ukraine's power grid. Credible Ukrainian military experts warn that the anticipated imminent Russian offensive will include attacks on nuclear power plants. I'm sorry. You mean like the repeated attacks on the Zaporozhye power plant and others, nuclear power plants, like those attacks? Using American HIMARS weapons to attack those nuclear power plants? But now, credible Ukrainian military officials are saying that now Russia is going to attack the very same nuclear power plants that it has control of? Okay. And by the way, she wants you to donate to and be a part of actinukrainenow.org. NATO humanitarian military mission in Ukraine is needed. And here is ACT in Ukraine's mission statement. Let's read through it. It's pretty funny. Russia's genocidal war on Ukraine has been the objective of extinguishing Ukraine as an independent nation. Okay, that's false. Number 2, Russian armed forces are obliterating Ukraine with terrorist tactics. Oh, you mean like the Kerch Bridge to Crimea? It was blown up by Ukrainian secret police and have caused the largest humanitarian crisis in Europe since the Second World War. Russian armed forces commit war crimes and crimes against the humanity on an industrial scale. Convenient when you ignore the very own war crimes on the Ukrainian side, but don't get me started. NATO's intervention in Ukraine on industrial scale.
What is industrial?
War crimes.
I missed the other word. War crimes. Yeah. What do industrial war crimes look like on an industrial scale? Like industrial strength war crimes? Like that's a new one. I appreciate that.
I guess like what Ukraine's been doing for the last 8-9 years against the people of the Donbass. It's a cognitive dissonance. Like people literally ignore what's unfolded against these people for almost a decade now.
Well, I see what I heard. Russia can't hear because
so maybe just the routine, the nonstop barrage for the past 8 years hitting civilian targets. I don't know. Is that
Russia's
on industrial scale? I don't know.
Noses and got it out the way.
NATO's intervention in Ukraine would be absolutely legitimate and lawful, they say. NATO's intervention in Ukraine would be absolutely legitimate and lawful. Really? Because it's not a member of NATO. So NATO is the only actionable force to implement the will of the international community to stop Russian aggression. The objective of NATO's mission in Ukraine will be to prevent a humanitarian catastrophe which carries international consequences far beyond Ukrainian borders. NATO must defend its values. This is my favorite one of the whole list. NATO must defend its values of liberty, democracy, human rights, and the rule of law from rogue terrorists, Putin's Russia. I mean, really.
I mean, yeah, coming from the aggressor, that's rich.
You know, it really is amazing to me because there's so many ignorant people still who just don't understand what's actually been unfolding for the past 8-9 years here. There's really a lot of ignorant people out there, not the people watching this show, because you understand what's going on. But the people that watch like CNN, the people that are watching the mainstream media, the people that read the garbage like New York Times, the Washington Post, or Reuters, or the BBC, they fall for this kind of stuff. They fall for this stuff.
But that's all they doing. They testing out their business.
And this is the type of propaganda that got us into this mess.
That's all.
And this is why the rest of Europe is collapsing right now. And this is why Britons are being fined 300 pounds for just trying to heat their homes with wood. Meanwhile, last week, Germany's foreign minister.
So I just
go ahead.
Oh, sorry, real quick. I think the thing that gets missed in that last little image we were looking at is I could see if you wrote that saying the UN must, because if there are people in Ukraine who they feel that they need the international community, what they want is the UN, not NATO, because they're not a member of NATO.
Right.
NATO, like that would be like NATO going into Yemen, NATO going into Syria.
Right.
Like that's not what NATO's charter is supposed to be. Yeah, it's a a bullshit little club, but the fact is you can't call on that club to start going into other countries that aren't NATO members. That is hugely problematic on a global scale.
Well, that's
because then NATO is just a rogue army.
Well, and that's what Colonel Douglas McGregor said earlier this week on our show when he said, NATO is a defensive organization. And because there is nothing to defend, they had to create and provoke they had to provoke a war. They have to provoke an enemy. You then have to make Putin the bad guy. Without a bad guy, as he pointed out, then NATO shouldn't exist. Like there's no reason for it to exist. To defend what? There's nothing to defend.
The United States has been great at making Russia the bad guy since the end of World War II, when they actually helped us, or we helped them rather, liberate the Jews.
Yeah, I mean,
ever since then, we've just been like,
or liberate Europe,
moving. Yeah, exactly.
And so NATO as an organization, serves no purpose anymore. Now it's to provoke wars. That's what it is. Just ask the Serbians. So this is what it does. So meanwhile, last week, Germany's foreign minister said out loud what we already knew, which is that Germany is at war with Russia.
Damn.
Germany is at war with Russia. She told us this, that NATO is at war with Russia. Germany, by proxy, is at war with Russia. She said, watch.
And therefore, I've said already in the last days, yes, we have to do more to defend Ukraine. Yes, we have to do more also on tanks. But the most important and the crucial part is that we do it together and that we do not do the blame game in Europe, because we are fighting a war against Russia and not against each other. Thank you.
Yeah,
we're at war. We are fighting a war against Russia. She said it. Those were her words. Well, now Germany says that if you think that she said we are at war with Russia, that is Russian propaganda. That she never said those words. Here's Reuters. Germany accuses Russia of twisting the minister's war comments for propaganda. She didn't say that. I love how we have videotape. Like, not even videotape anymore, which deteriorates. Like, we have digital files. Like, we can play you what she said. She said it. Now it's Russian propaganda if you think that she said that. Okay.
And it wasn't even like she said it that long ago that it like we could have all like be suffering from the Mandela effect. That was like a week ago, wasn't it?
It was last
Like
week.
some of us have a memory span that will last that long. I mean, come on.
I mean, not much longer. I mean, I'm teetering there, but yeah, I can remember last week. And it's good that we have here at Redacted, we have a massive archive of videos. Like we're able to pull from a lot of stuff. We have a really good system of like being able to pull when these politicians lie to us. Go ahead, Tim.
Well, I was going to say before too long, they're going to be like, oh, no, that was a deep fake. They're going to have that as an excuse.
Right. Yeah, it was a deep fake. Yeah. So that's Russian propaganda, if you believe that. So we're watching very closely what happens over the next few days.
Yeah.
Of course, NATO really wants there to be this awareness about
till then, y'all make sure y'all go registertrapflix.com. And we're gonna be back with another one in a little bit. Well, I might be getting ready to lay it down. It's damn near 1 a.m. out here. So big salute to everybody, man. Y'all let me know in the comments if y'all want to continue reading Black Root Science. That chapter was kind of long. And she was talking about how they were living back in the day in the future, but so we'll see y'all. So y'all tune in, tap in with me. Let me know what y'all want to react to next. Because if it ain't no breaking news, it's gonna be hard to find something, but we'll find something. But I love y'all, man.